Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Stamperia Sunflower Art Mini Album Tutorial Series designed for Scrap and Create. If you are just joining me in the tutorial series, there is a complete supply list video showing you all the products that you will need to make this project. However, you can also click on the links in the description box below for all of the products that are available on the Scrap and Create website. So check those links out, purchase those products, and follow along. In the previous video, we completed the top flap. In this video, we're going to work on the right flap inside and outside, and then we will quickly add something to the inside front cover. So let's get started. First, we need to cut 5 pieces that measure 4 inches by 4.5 inches. Now on all of these pieces, I'm going to score on the 4.5 inch side at 1/2 inch on the top. Then I'm going to take my scissors and miter these edges. Now, if you want this to be more decorative, you can take your decorative edge die and place it here on these flaps and cut off the bottom. So the waterfall that we create will have the decorative edge, but then you'll have a smaller photo spot. It still will hold wallet-sized photos if you choose to do so. I'm going to leave mine like this and not add that decorative edge to the bottom. Next, I have a piece of cardstock that measures 2 inches by 8 inches. I don't need to score this, so I'm just going to set this aside. I have one piece that measures 5 inches by 6.5 inches. On the 5 inch side, I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch and 4.5 inches. Then I'm going to turn, and on the 6.5 inch side, I'm going to score at 1/2 inch on the bottom. Then I'm going to miter these corners and remove that excess to create my pocket. Use your bone folder to fold on those score lines. I have one piece that measures 4 inches by 8 inches. I don't need to do anything to this piece. I have a second piece that measures 4 inches by 8.5 inches. I am going to put this on the 8.5 inch side, score at 1/2 inch on the top, miter those corners. Then marking the bottom edge in the center, going to place my die right at the edge and in the center, and then I will run this through my die cutting machine to create that decorative edge. Once I have my decorative edge, I'm going to go ahead and fold on that score line and burnish, and then I will bring in my 4 by 8 inch piece and line these up, make sure that they are the same width. Then I'm going to add my adhesive to my flap on my piece with the decorative edge and attach it to the top of the second piece to create a long photo booklet. You can go ahead and gather all of the pieces that we have just cut, and we're going to place these in the album. We are going to be starting on the inside cover with our waterfall flaps. So these are the 5 flaps that we've created, and I am going to start here at the top of my page and make sure that it is on the edge, but this will still close as well, so you don't want this to go too far in. Now I'm going to add my adhesive on my first flap, and then I am going to take the scored edge and line it up with the top edge of my cover piece or my page and burnish it down. Then I will open and burnish again. take the second piece and apply adhesive to that 1/2 inch tab. Now this one, we're going to line up just below where that 1/2 inch tab is. We're going to close our flaps to make sure that they are straight on the sides and then burnish this down. Taking my third piece, I'm going to apply my adhesive to my tab. And then again, place this right below that 1/2 inch tab. Close that flap and make sure everything is lined up straight. Then burnish this piece down. Now we have flap number 4. We're going to add the adhesive on the tab and apply it right below, lining that piece up with the tab, closing those flaps and making sure that our sides are straight before burnishing this down. You want to be really careful here when you do this, because if you slightly shift your waterfall flaps, they will start to get crooked and they just don't look good when you're finished. So it's really important to keep checking things and being careful when you burnish that nothing shifts. For the final flap, add your adhesive, apply to the page, line all those flaps up, and then burnish that one down. Now I have this 2 inch by 8 inch piece. It's going to be a closure band that I'm going to put on here. So first, I'm going to bring my centering ruler in and mark this so that I know where to place my band. And I'm going to mark it on the bottom as well. And I'm going to actually just add my adhesive here to my top flap. I don't often create closures this way, but it's going to have a little different look from the one that I usually make. So we've got the adhesive in that section where this will cover it. So I just need to then go and fit this band right between those marks that I made. Now I didn't use my decorative die on the edge here. You could if you wanted to, but I am choosing not to because I'm probably going to end up decorating with another element, maybe one of the ephemera pieces or something else from the collection. So I'm going to leave that without that decorative edge. But now the top flap has our closure. We might also put something here. We could put a pocket, but we'll come back to that later when we go to add our decorative papers on. Next, we're going to come over to this side. Now we have this pocket here and it is now 4 inches by 6 inches. It should fit here on the page right next to your waterfall flap. So that's why you want to make sure that it was right on the edge here and didn't go over too far. Now, if it did, all you have to do is rescore this and refold it so that this will fit on your page. You can also just tuck this slightly under the waterfall flaps if you need to. It won't be a big deal if it does go under there. So I am going to be adding my adhesive to my 1/2 inch tabs on all 3 sides of my pocket. And now I'm going to just apply this so that it is on the bottom edge and the right edge of my piece. And then I will burnish this down so that it's adhered to my page. The last piece we have is this photo mat or booklet that we created, and I accidentally made this a little bit too large, so I'm just going to cut this down as it is. This is going to tuck inside of this pocket, so we need it to be just slightly narrower than what the pocket actually is, so it will slide in there. I'm going to keep it like this as one booklet. I'm not going to open it up when I do this. I'm going to eye this and see if it looks like it is uneven slightly on one side. I am going to then cut from that edge just a very tiny amount. So I have this little sliver that I cut off. Hopefully that's enough. So I will take my back side and see if I can slide this down into my pocket. It's still tight. So now I'm going to flip this over and cut from the other side. And now it's looking like it is about 3 7/8 of an inch, since I've cut off of both sides. And it will slide down in here now. So once it slides in, we'll have our waterfall here, and then we'll have this large photo mat. So this will probably have a magnetic closure on it to keep it closed, and it will flip up and pull out. So that is everything for this part of the page. So we're going to flip over and focus on this side. The first piece for this page is 8 inches by 5.5 inches. On the 5.5 inch side, we're going to score 1/2 inch on the bottom and then miter those corners. Then on the 8 inch side up here at the top, we have it marked in the center because we're going to use our decorative edge die. So like we have been doing, we're going to line up the top of the die with the top of the paper. And then we're going to line up the center of this first cutout with the center of the page, run this through the die cutting machine, and then move over here to cut that top piece. Once I have this piece cut, I will go ahead and fold over on this score line and burnish that fold, set that piece aside. Next, I have a piece that measures 5.5 by 7.5. On the 7.5 inch side, we're going to score this at 1/2 inch on the top. We'll miter those corners. Then on the flat edge, we're going to mark in the center and use the decorative die here, lining this up so that it is in the center. And then I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. Once I have that cut, I'm going to go ahead and fold on my score line and burnish that fold. Then I'll set that piece aside. I have 2 pieces that measure 5.5 by 1.5. For one of those pieces, we don't need to do anything to it. You can just set it aside. For the other piece on the 1.5 inch side, we are going to score this at 1/2 inch on the bottom. Miter those corners and then fold on that score line and burnish that fold. Then we have one piece that measures 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and we don't need to do anything to this one. We're going to start with the large flap, and we're going to place it down here at the bottom edge. So I am going to add my adhesive here to my 1/2" tab section, and I'm going to line up the score line of this piece with the edge of my page. Once it's lined up, I'm going to go ahead and burnish that down. Now I'm going to write in here a note to turn that into a pocket after my background paper is on. I have my ruler and I'm going to measure this in the center for my next flap. So this is 5 1/2, so I need this to be at 2 3/4 from center. So I'm going to add my adhesive here to my flap, my tab on my flap. And then I'm going to adhere this right to the top so that the score line lines up with the edge of the page. Then I'll burnish this down. For the piece that is just plain 5 1/2 by 1 1/2, I'm going to place this just here on top of the flap and use a piece of washi to hold this down. Then I'm going to take the one that has the tab on it, and I'm going to apply my adhesive to the 1/2" tab section on the back. And I'm going to adhere this down here at the bottom. Now, if you are afraid of placing this so that it is uneven, you can go ahead and mark this. It is the same size as this top, excuse me, top flap. So you can use that to line everything up, or you can make marks and line it up that way. Going to burnish this down. And what this is going to be, it's a tuck spot that the sides will be adhered down once the paper's on. When this belly band isn't taped down, this is going to be a photo mat that's going to slide through the belly band and into the tuck spot to hold that flap closed. But for right now, I'm just going to place this photo mat in here in the back pocket. We will come back and add things into this pocket later, whether it's those cards that I purchased or whether we make photo mats, we'll come back to that. So that is everything for this part of the page. We only have a couple of things for here and then we'll be finished with the build of the album. I have one large piece that measures 8 inches by 6 1/2. We're not going to do anything with it, so I'm going to set it aside. I have another large piece that measures 4 1/2 by 8 1/4. I'm not going to do anything with this one, so I'm going to set this one aside. Then I have one piece that measures 4 1/2 by 2 1/4. And then I did score this at 1/2 inch on the bottom edge on the 2 1/4 inch side. I'm going to miter those corners and fold on that score line. Then I'm also going to mark on that top edge and use my decorative border die, lining everything up in the center. And I'm going to take this to my die cutting machine. Once this piece is cut, I'm going to take my adhesive and apply it to that 1/2 inch tab. And I'm going to take my 4.5 by 8.25 inch piece and apply this to the bottom edge. Then I'll adhere this down and use my bone folder. This is going to go on the page as a large belly band. This is going to be a photo mat that goes behind that belly band. And then this is going to be a tuck spot that we can tuck a card or a photo mat into. But for right now, I am just going to use some washi to hold these to my page until I'm ready to decorate them. And then I'll go ahead and close up my cover. And that is it for the build. So now as you start to look, you will see that your album is getting fuller, but there's still plenty of room. Once we add our decorative papers and our embellishments, these will sit a little bit flatter. If you see that inside, they're not all sitting flat, and there will still be plenty of space to add your photos. So that's it for today's tutorial. If you have just joined in, don't forget to check out the links in the description box below where all the products that are available on the Scrap and Create website are linked, so you can just click on those and purchase them. So I hope to see you in the next tutorial.